We're going to talk a little bit about the Four Nations wrapping things up. Connor McDavid, the golden goal. Great game, great tournament. Stephen Ellis of the Daily Faceoff joining us on the Western Hotline to put a nice bow on it. Stephen, good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. We're disappointed the U.S. did not win, but we're at the same time kind of basking in what was a really fun 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to kind of take away from this. This is not as important to many people as the Olympics and events that we're going to be seeing going forward, or like the World Cup of Hockey in 2028. But I think what we saw was some fantastic competitive hockey. Was it the highest level of hockey we saw? No, it felt like there was maybe a bit too much defensive hockey in the first 6 games. But then to close it out with as incredible of a game as we saw, where both teams led. You look at there was a thing called the deserve to win meter, and it was basically 50% all game long. That's what you want to see, right? And there were mistakes, but then there was just some great goaltending, and overall, what a fantastic way to end the tournament.
Yeah, if you're rooting for the U.S. in this tournament, can you almost feel okay this morning even though you lost? Because isn't all the evidence through the whole tournament, but especially in the 2 games? I mean, shot attempts were exactly the same last night. Shots were even. If you take out the empty net goal in the Saturday game, it was 5-5, I think. All the evidence points to these 2 teams now are really, really even.
Yeah, you don't want to make excuses, but what if Quinn Hughes was there? What if Brock Faber had another year of experience? What if all those players that missed that game against Sweden that might have not been at full health in this final game, like the Kachuk brothers? Well, what if happened then? What if they had Charlie McAvoy? So to come as close to Team Canada, where it was pretty close to their main roster. Obviously, no Faith Theodore, there were no Pietrangelo, and no Josh Morrissey in the end. It was still kind of what you wanted to see out there. And you saw that Connor Hellebuck was so close to finally just breaking through and winning that all-elusive championship game that he's been missing all these years and one of the top goalies. But you still look at that, and there were just so many promising elements that was easily the best American roster I think we've ever seen at any hockey tournament. I think any past American team would tell you the same thing. And it's only going to get better next year for the Olympics.
Stephen, I think Joe and I were kind of joking around. What happens, the hockey world looks at this tournament and says, what do hockey fans do the next day? And the answer is we take apart the GM of the team that lost. You said it was the best American team that they've ever had. Was it the best team America could have iced?
Oh, no. You look at Tage Thompson obviously not being there. You look at Cole Caulfield and not being there, and obviously no Quinn Hughes. But so it could have been even better, and some of that was out of their control, like with Quinn Hughes' injury. But I think part of it is, I think the GMs on all the teams were still trying to play this kind of maybe old school. We still wanted some guys who could be these role players, like Brock Nelson being a two-way threat, and Chris Kreider going there to be a tough player to play against. But then, Kyle Connor is one of the top goal scorers in the league, and he wasn't used in a scoring role pretty much the entire tournament. So that part of it shows you the depth it has, but part of it also shows you that, I wonder how this roster would have been constructed if it was named January 15th as opposed to December 4th. And I think Canada would say the same thing when it comes to goaltending. A lot of people would have said, okay, well, Logan Thompson probably would have been the starting goalie for Canada had they had all that time to look at it, but it's just kind of the way it is. And so the Olympics is still the goal here, and they've probably learned a few things along the way, and they'll be able to prepare for that better.
Yeah, I was wondering, would we expect to see them act differently? I guess you're kind of saying that. Next year when the Olympics, and I think it's bigger roster, it almost definitely is, right? Bigger rosters next year than what we have right now. The guys I'm thinking of, Trocheck, Kreider, Nelson, are we going to see the guys you mentioned, Jason Robertson, maybe even throw in that mix as someone we could see there instead? That's the one thing I just wonder. Is if Bill Guerin is the GM and Drury is involved still, will they actually bring the more skilled guys, or are they gonna look for someone that they think's more of a fourth line type guy?
Well, that's the thing. I think that was something where when you look at the game, how it was pretty much in 2010, 2014, 2016, we're still looking at a more skilled game today. And I feel like the way the teams have started to look at their rosters has to be a bit differently. you want some guys who can go out there and throw some hits and be tough to play against. Well, we saw the American, that was their top line. That was the Kachuk brothers. That was Charlie McAvoy. Like, those are guys who are not just there to play a specific role. So you got to go out there, and if you're going to go beat a team like Canada where the center depth is Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, and Braden Point, you got to be able to go out there and try and match their skill. And the Americans can, while also still being very physical. Like, it felt like throughout that entire tournament when Canada used to be the team that people didn't want to face because of how hard they hit and how hard they skated, that was the American team this time. So I feel like that's going to be pretty big for them going forward. But you got to have those guys who can go out there and score from everywhere. And Brock Nelson wasn't that, but Tage Thompson and Cole Caulfield could have easily been those players.
Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff with us. Jordan Binnington does show up in the big moment, like was kind of built up that he could even before the tournament. Was it good enough? You think he'll be their goalie again next year?
When it comes to goaltending, like, Jordan Binnington could be either the best goalie in the NHL at the time of the roster announcement or the worst goalie, and wouldn't surprise me either way. I think with him, his ability to bounce back after allowing a bad goal is so important, and he finishes the tournament with the best high danger save percentage, even better than Connor Hellebuck. But I would have to assume his low danger save percentage is probably among the worst because he did allow so many weaker goals. But his ability to allow a bad goal and then make some incredible saves the rest of the game and basically be perfect, it was so crucial. So we'll see. Hockey Canada liked him. They brought him to the World Championship last year, and if you thought he allowed some bad goals of this tournament, you should have seen him play against Austria when Canada was winning 6-2 in the third period, and they only won 7-6 in overtime, mostly because Binnington fell apart. So those type of games are still known there, but I think right now he's got that inside track. They like him a lot, but if Logan Thompson can show that this is not just a one-season thing and he can be this superstar goalie, I think they're going to have to look that way instead.
Stephen Ellis with us. Do you think, we talking about like the years coming up, how 2028 there's a World Cup, we'll have the Olympics next year. What do you think they do in 2027? Because I just feel like an all-star game would just feel like a total letdown if it's surrounded by all these awesome international tournaments.
Yeah, like at a certain point, like they're going to, they can't keep the international tournaments because they will start to dilute it. Like, you look at the fact that there is the Men's World Championship to be one of the most underrated and greatest hockey events. It's the one where all of Europe loves it. But North American teams, it doesn't resonate. Like, Canada can win gold, and it's not even mentioned in the news. Latvia finishes third, and they get 3 days off as a country to go celebrate. Like, it's a completely different thing there. So for me, like, I'd rather see the players go to that than have another tournament in the middle of the year. So I thought, like, for a while, if you want the All-Star game to matter more to these players, you've got to put like make it so players are playing for charities, and make it so if they don't try, if they do the Nikita Kucherov thing, it makes them look bad. And if there's money on the line, again, like that matters a bit more. So we'll see what they do there. But yeah, like it's going to feel like a massive letdown going back to they're doing the All-Star game next year. Like, at least that's what they announced. They're going to be doing that before the Olympics, which my opinion, I think that's going to be canceled at some point, because why would the players bother with that? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the league does.
Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff on Four Nations as we wrap this up. We had a fun question. Is there any player you came away after this tournament thinking differently of? I mean, for better or for worse, really. You can go positively, or maybe they don't have it like they used to. One player that you were really impressed with.
I'd say it's Dylan Larkin, and I feel like that's a player who has always been a leading part of the Detroit Red Wings, but for pretty much his entire career, he has not come close to taking the playoffs. And I know a few fan bases could probably say the same thing, but when it comes to the way he played, I felt like he was the ultimate role player because he was fast, he was very good defensively. He was, if you look at the advanced analytics, like his goals, expected goals for percentage, it's like pretty much every time he was on the ice, the puck was in the offensive zone, and he was a big reason why. So Larkin, his ice time kept growing as the tournament wore on. He played really good against Canada with those 2 points on Saturday, but then he probably played his best game actually against Sweden when they were missing all those players. So Dylan Larkin just showed what Red Wings fans have been saying for this long time. Like, he's not 90, 100-point guy, but he brings so many other elements to the table that there's no way he's not going to be on the team in Italy next year, when a lot of people were questioning why he was there this season to begin with.
Wrapping with Stephen Ellis. Before we let you go, Stephen, is there anything on the Sabres? Any thoughts at all on a 14th year in a row missing the playoffs, and they're like the one team in the East that's not even in the race?
There's no team in the NHL I want to see succeed more than the Buffalo Sabres, because I love the fan base. And I don't know, man. I still think back to last year when they rushed Devin Levi to the NHL, and that made me so mad because, historically, having a goalie go from college to the NHL was a terrible idea. I really think they hurt his development. That's a little concerning to me for the long run there, but I think this team has just too many decent pieces here that I still think you got to make a GM change to go from there, because I still think you got the talent here to make it work. It's just the right people have got to be the ones putting it together.
Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff. Stephen, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.